Britain is running out of homes. Rents are rising faster than wages. House prices are now around 8 times average incomes. Young people are living with their parents well into their 30s. At a glance, this feels like a simple story. An island nation, too many people, not enough space. But that intuition turns out to be wrong. England isn't full. In fact, compared to most of Western Europe, it's surprisingly empty. So, if space isn't the problem, what is? To answer that, we need to look at how land is actually used and who decides what can be built. When people imagine the housing crisis, they often picture England covered in concrete. But only around 9% of England's land is developed. That includes everything: homes, offices, factories, roads, railways, even car parks. All of it. The remaining 90% isn't dense urban sprawl. Most of it is countryside. Around 2/3 of England is agricultural land. Fields used for farming. Not untouched wilderness, not protected habitat. Just land producing food. Then there's the Green Belt, which covers around 13% of England. Despite the name, this isn't a network of national parks. Much of it is low biodiversity farmland, scrubland, golf courses, or inaccessible open space surrounding cities. And finally, there are areas with genuine environmental protection, national parks and areas of outstanding natural beauty. Together, they account for less land than agriculture alone. So England hasn't run out of space. It has chosen to tightly control where homes are allowed to go, and that choice takes us directly to the planning system. If land itself were the problem, prices would be high everywhere. But they're not. Prices spike precisely where permission is scarce. Because in England, owning land does not mean you can build on it. Whether you're allowed to build depends on planning permission. And to understand why housing supply is so constrained, we need to understand how that permission is decided. England uses what is known as a discretionary planning system. This means development is not approved automatically, even if it follows the local plan. Instead, every project is assessed individually. A developer submits an application. Planning officers write a report. Elected councillors vote on whether it goes ahead. In theory, this allows flexibility, but in practice, it introduces discretion, and discretion introduces uncertainty. A project that appears compliant on paper can still be refused because of political pressure, because of organised local opposition, or because priorities change. Even approval does not end the process. Permissions often come with dozens of conditions. Timelines stretch, appeals are common. In some cases, decisions are overturned years later. So from the perspective of anyone trying to build homes, the system is not just slow, it's unpredictable. In England, permission is granted after negotiation. Elsewhere, permission exists before you even apply. That difference matters more than it sounds, because housing supply responds not just to prices, but to risk. When risk is high, behaviour changes. Developers submit fewer applications. They redesign projects to be smaller and safer. They build more slowly once approved. Small builders, who cannot survive multi-year delays, disappear entirely. This is why England's housing market is dominated by a handful of large firms, not because the system explicitly favours them, but because they're the only ones who can survive it. Economists describe this as a planning-induced supply constraint. On the ground, it's simpler. If permission is uncertain, fewer homes get built, and that uncertainty does not vanish. It gets priced into the land. Nowhere is this clearer than the Green Belt boundary. Cross it, and land values can jump 100-fold. Same field, same soil, same location, only difference is permission. The Green Belt does not just prevent sprawl. It concentrates development pressure inside narrow boundaries. That pushes prices up, intensifies conflict, and turns every new home into a political battle. Protecting every acre may feel environmental, but economically, it hard-codes scarcity, and scarcity changes politics. As homes become scarce, development becomes controversial. The costs are local and immediate. Construction disrupts, pressure on schools and roads, fear of falling house prices. The benefits are distant. Renters, future residents, national economic growth. Local councils respond rationally. They listen to the voters who already live there. The people who need housing most don't get a vote, so planning becomes restrictive, not by accident, but by incentive. Once development becomes politically risky, rules tighten. Height limits, parking minimums, design constraints. Not because density is inherently ugly, but because it's visible. So England bans gentle density without ever announcing it. Mid-rise flats near stations, shops with homes above, the kinds of places common across much of Europe. We build too little, on too little land, and too low a density, which raises a final question. Does it have to be this way? To see how much planning systems matter, it helps to look outside Britain. Consider Japan. Japan's population has been falling since around 2010, and yet it builds more homes each year than England. In recent years, Japan has added around 800,000 to 900,000 new homes annually. England, by contrast, typically builds between 200,000 and 250,000. The difference isn't demand, it's the rules. Japan uses a rules-based zoning system. There are 12 national zoning categories, applied uniformly across the country. Each zone specifies in advance what can be built, how tall it can be, and what uses are allowed. If a developer complies with those rules, it is approved as of right. No discretionary committee vote, no negotiation, no local veto. Permission exists before you apply. This predictability changes everything. Housing supply in Japanese cities is highly elastic. When demand rises, construction rises with it. As a result, real house prices in Tokyo have remained broadly flat for decades, even as the city has grown. Rents have been stable. Vacancy rates are higher. Moving city doesn't require a lottery win. And this isn't because Japanese homes are poor quality. Most are rebuilt every few decades, treated as normal consumer goods, not scarce financial assets. Now compare that to England. We negotiate permission after land is bought. Approval can take years. Outcomes are uncertain. And every additional home becomes a political fight. Japan shows what happens when you flip that logic. When permission is predictable, housing stops being scarce. Not because governments build everything themselves, but because the system allows supply to respond. The lesson from Japan isn't that Britain should copy every detail. It's simpler than that. If you want more homes, you need a system where building them isn't a gamble. Britain's housing crisis isn't a mystery. It's the logical outcome of a planning system built on uncertainty, local vetoes, and artificial scarcity. We didn't fail to build homes. We chose not to. And until permission becomes predictable, homes will remain scarce. If you enjoyed this video, please consider liking and subscribing, as it helps us produce higher quality content and reach more people just like you.